Hi zeesters! Welcome back to another video. For today, it's gonna be a sit-down video. I've actually missed doing this. It's been a while because recently we have been trying to do some more vlogs and I wanted to show you, the life that we have here in Australia, how we are, and if you're someone who are interested with knowing what it's like to live abroad, to live overseas, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. We'll be doing a pros and cons video about living in Australia. For those who doesn't know me, I am from the Philippines, so there might be some occasions that I'll be comparing it to the way how we live in the Philippines. Or most of my viewers are also from the Philippines, so I'm pretty sure you would be interested in knowing what are the differences. Let's get started. So I've got my laptop here and I did list the pros and the cons that I think would benefit you and some information that you would need to know and consider before migrating here or before moving here. So let's start with the pros first. Public transportation. I am really amazed how public transportation works here in Australia. Me and my husband, we do not have a car here in Australia, but we can still go to most of the places just through public transportation. And their trains are reliable, very efficient. Sometimes there will be delays, which are inevitable anyway, but most of the time they are on time. And there's this app that we use here in Australia. In the Philippines we do not have that, so I'm really amazed by that as well. It's an app that we can use to know when is the next train coming, and also if it's for the bus, you can also track whereabouts the location of the bus right now, so it can tell you whether it's gonna be late. If you want to know more about how to use those apps, I'll be leaving a link in the description box below for my first ever video that I have posted, and it's a guide for you on how to take public transportation. It's done two. One is for the apps and one is for how to take a bus ride in Sydney. Okay, so for the next pro is varieties of food. So there's so many varieties of food in here. You can find Mediterranean food, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, Greek, kebab stores. There's so many varieties of food, so you will never run out of options. And even if you're a Filipino as well, there's so many Filipino restaurants here right now, although you have to go to certain places, west area, but they're starting to have more as well in south. The next is safety. I can say it has been safe for me for the past few years that I've been staying here. When I was in uni, my uni classes are mostly at night and finishes at around 10 o'clock. And I travel from west to south, and it takes me about an hour, even more than an hour at times, because there's not much trains around that time anymore. So sometimes I have to wait for a while for the train, but nonetheless it has been okay, and I never felt the need to look over my shoulders, so I think that's good. And I can even use my phone outside, outside my home, if I'm in the mall or wherever. When I'm in the Philippines, I'm always scared that it gets stolen or it gets snatched from me and I get robbed. Safety wise, for myself and for my belongings, I can say it is quite safe here in Australia. Work-life balance is the next pro for me. Australia is really promoting work-life balance, so most of the shops, most of the stores are closed from 6 p.m. the average closing time. Around 5 o'clock you'll get to see them packing up, you get to see them preparing, and 6 o'clock you can already consider it as after hours. Although in most cases, for me and my husband, we actually do work really long hours. I leave the house at 7:30 and I won't be home till like 8 o'clock. So it's more than 12 hours that I'm not at home. Additionally, the maximum working hours here in Australia for a full-time worker is 38 hours. If I'm not mistaken, back in the Philippines, the working hours there is 40 hours per week, and then the rest after 38 is considered overtime hours. I think there's a certain percentage that the employer has to pay if the employee works after hours, Saturdays, and on Sundays as well. I think Sunday is the highest. I think it's double pay. The next is cultural diversity. So in Australia, there's not just Australians. From the time that I have moved here, I've actually interacted with so many different cultures. Nepalese, Indians, Greek, Vietnamese, Arabics, Colombians, Chinese, Mongolian, Brazilians. There's so many. So it's pretty diverse, it's pretty multicultural. So you will really get to be exposed with different cultures when you're here. Sometimes they're celebrating something, they'll be on their traditional costumes and you can see them in the trains. And the next is the high quality education system in Australia. I can't really even begin to discuss how it is, but it's just really good, and how they train their students. I can tell there's so much pressure. When I was in uni, we do case studies all the time, and how you are meant to submit your assessments. They call it turn it in. It can detect whether you just copy paste in Google or whatever. But then I realized that, you know, it did help us into critical thinking and being pressured, multitasking. I think it's their way of molding the students to become really good employees, to work well as soon as they start their career. The next is you never run out of places or activities to do. I am in Sydney. I can't even believe that there's a beach near the city. So many beaches, so many parks you can go to, and there's so many activities you can do. Back when I was still living with my auntie, we actually can just walk about 20-30 minutes and we're already on the beach. It's really good. You don't need to travel 2 hours in order to get to the beaches. But what I'm saying is that there's so many options as well, even if you are in the city. One pro as well for me is Australia is a nature lover country, because they really take good care of the trees. Even if you're like in the city, they still maintain it, so which is really good. That's why there's so many parks here, because the government is maintaining it. You get to breathe fresh air, you get to see all these greens. It's just amazing. The next is premium healthcare. This actually applies if you are a citizen or permanent resident, because you get to enjoy the benefits. For me though, I get to pay a lot of money in order to be insured and to see a doctor. Some countries, they are eligible in this so-called reciprocal Medicare card, so they get to enjoy the benefits as well. There's so many medical centers here that bulk bill, so that's what they call it. You don't actually need to pay out of pocket. Depends on the medical center that you're going to, but most of the centers you don't actually need to pay. Next is minimum wage. I did a video about the wages here in Australia, how much is it per hour depending on your skills and depending on your qualifications, on another video. If you are a Filipino, you can watch it. I'll put the link down below, or you can go to my channel and look for the Trabaho at Sahod sa Australia. In there I actually explained where you can find the award rates, the minimum pay for each occupation, your skills, and it's actually not that bad. In fact, I did mention in that video that the award rate increases every year. If you want me to do another video about that in English version, let me know in the comment section. This is the last one. Time difference. Time difference of Australia and the Philippines. Whenever it's daylight saving time between April to October, it's just 2 hours. October onwards until April, 3 hours only, compared to like other countries wherein there's an 8-hour time difference, or sometimes there's even a day difference. Now let's go on to the cons now. The first one for me is it's actually expensive to live here. The rent is expensive. Even if you buy a property, it's also expensive. Cost of living is high as well. A cup of coffee is about $3, $4. Soda is expensive, $3 for a soda. I think it's just pretty much everything is expensive. Australia promotes a high quality of life, but then that in return, it actually comes in a hefty price tag. I don't even know how to classify this, but comparing it with the Philippines and in here, there's so many holidays in the Philippines. Most of the heroes, there's a specific holiday for them. That's why we get to have a lot of like breaks, because there's so many long weekends. If a holiday falls on a Saturday, it will be moved on a Monday, so it will be a long weekend. And sometimes the president will just declare a holiday all of a sudden and be like, it's holiday next week, there's no work. We're just so spoiled on holidays in the Philippines. But in here, when I came in Australia, New South Wales wise, the holidays are just mainly Christmas, Easter, and then that's it. Like there will be something in between, but then that's just it. Like, nothing else. I thought if it falls on a weekend, you will usually turn the following work day as a holiday as well. But then this year, they didn't do that. Anzac holiday falls on 25th of the 4th. That's a Sunday. But I was so surprised, 26th of the 4th, it's not a holiday. So that's sad. Too bad it falls on a Sunday. And then after that, it will be Labor Day, which is one day in October. And then Christmas. And Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve are not even holidays. You still have to work. But that's just how it is. Like I said, we're just too spoiled on holidays back in my home country. But what can I do? Next, the temperature during summer is scorching hot, and it can reach 40 degrees most of the time, and it can be very humid. I don't know if it's because I haven't been living in the Philippines for a while now, but I think it's incomparable for the Philippine summer and the Australian summer, to the point that I don't want to go out of the house. The last one for me is isolation feeling, or the isolation anxiety, proximity or the distance of Australia from anywhere around the world. Because Australia is a big country, which means Australia's geographic location is just far from any other countries around the globe, which also means if you travel, you'll spend long hours on flights. And if you're someone who enjoys living abroad because of the travel opportunities, and if you picked Australia, you have to be prepared on spending a lot of for plane tickets. Otherwise, Australia may not just be the best for you. I remember, you know, because in the Philippines, there's just so many promotions, so many sales. And every time I see it on my news feed on Facebook, and I'm like, I'm just always just jealous, because they get to buy tickets to Japan, to Korea for just how much dollars, but then I get to spend times 3 or times 4 of the amount of how much they'll spend for plane tickets alone. And it's just a huge drawback for me and my husband, because we both love traveling, and every year we aim to try to go to another country or go overseas, but it's just so expensive. The last time we traveled before the Rona, it was in Fiji. It was one of the countries that's close to Australia, but I think we still spend a fair amount of money on our visit in there. What I'm saying is that your bank account needs to be prepared if you travel. That's just it. So that's my pros and cons of living in Australia, and at the end of the day, that's just me, that's my point of view, and you're the only one who get to decide whether moving to Australia is right for you. So that's it for our video for today. If you find this enjoyable and informative, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. Also click the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye.